There's a couple here on your list that aren't on the list, actually, that maybe I want to get your thoughts in and around. First one being dating older women. I fell into this trap, I think, in my mid to late 20s. It's like maybe things weren't going as well as I wanted to. I was having a little bit of success, but it's like, oh, this older woman, she's more secure, she's more successful, she's doing bigger things, she's into me, like, and I would latch on to these things. And I see a lot of young guys that are in their 20s fall into that way of thinking. What are your thoughts around men in their 20s dating older women?
Yeah, I see that a lot. I've had quite a few guys call in on my podcast and like, hey, I'm 27 and I'm dating this 41-year-old and she's super hot and she's a smoke show. She's got a teenage son or something like that. And it's like, and then follows, the problems that ensue. And it's like, dude, you realize you can avoid all of those problems if you don't date an older woman that's got some kid or kids, right? Like, your sexual strategy is to pass down your seed. Like that's why you're on the earth, is to scatter your seed. And you're abandoning that to deal with a woman who's past her fertility stage. I mean, let's be honest, she's not going to give you any children. You're going to be responsible for raising some other dude's kid. And at the end of the day, you're not really able to lead a relationship if you're 27 and she's 41, right? Because she's always going to look down on you, right? She's always going to be that woman that's like, well, I got divorced 5 years ago and I got half his shit and I'm sorted. I got my money right, but I like this guy because he's young and he's hard, right? Like that's what their angle tends to be, is I'm an older woman. I'm not getting what I want in my age range. I've already got my money because I took half of his shit when I got divorced. So I'm just going to date a young and hard guy sort of thing. Right. And that's usually what happens. And it's a lot of sex and like enthusiastic monkey sex, and they like it. And guys are very simple, right? Like guys are very, very easy to please. If you have an enthusiastic, generally attractive woman, they usually get like, the post-divorce breast augmentation done. So they got like the tailor-made titties going on and everything looks good sort of thing. Like just touch their pee-pee and they'll fall for you, right? Younger guys fall for it all the time. And it's a trap. It's the Soul Crusher 3000 is what I call it. So, try it out, have some fun if you need to, explore some options. But do not make a long-term relationship out of it. Do not marry her, because I'm telling you, like, you're 27 now, but when you're 37, she's going to be 51, and women go downhill rapidly when they hit menopause, right? And that happens for some women in their early 40s, sometimes their early 50s, but somewhere in and around that 10 to 15 year mark, her looks are going to decline rapidly. And if we're being honest, like a woman's value to a guy is her fertility. Can she bring him children? And there's absolutely no way you're going to get that from an older woman.
Yeah. And guys, if your looks, money, status, game are not on point, you're not in the top 20%, and you're, falling into these traps, like pull back, get focused on you, excel, grow, chase greatness. And then you're gonna have no problem attracting the younger women.
The problem is that it's low hanging fruit. It's really, really easy, right? It's really easy for a young, 20-year-old guy to get an older chick. It's just super easy. So, they think, oh, wow, this woman actually gets me. Like, she understands me and she's super attracted to me. But Becky that I dated last year, that was my age or slightly younger, she ran off with Tyrone or Chad or whatever. And I haven't seen her since. So because she's given me all this attention, I'll just look past the fact that she's older.
Yeah, she's playing you, brother. Become Chad. The other one on here, and maybe because the book was written a few years back, this might be more of an issue that's kind of rose up in the last year or two. But plastic surgery, women that have highly surgical modified faces. I'll share a story here with you, Rich, if you're okay with it. So I was at an event a couple weeks back. It was a big charity, nonprofit, kind of, high society, like the who's who of Tampa, all is in there. About 400 people showed up at the event, walked in with the woman that I was with, and instantly, one of the first things I said is, there's a plastic surgeon in Tampa that has made millions of dollars off of this room. It's all the same look. It's the high cheekbones, it's the chin, it's the nose, it's the eyes, it's the lips. I mean, it's almost a mold, and you could literally see it across the entire room. Now, later on in the evening, as the party kind of ascended, we moved on to the after party. The woman running the event, I'm close friends with her. Her dad was there, comes up to me and the woman I was there with at the event. She goes, it's so refreshing to see a beautiful woman that hasn't had her face modified and hacked up. Just your thoughts, man, around this. Like for me, that's a big, big warning sign. If you can see that there's been a massive amount of work done on her face, because I don't think that ever ends. I think once they go down that hole, it's an endless pursuit. What are your thoughts around plastic surgery in the face?
Yeah, I always find that funny because women push back so hard when I tell them that you're a beauty object to a man. Like I run this podcast now, my Unplugged Alpha podcast series called Ladies Night. I've only been doing it for a few months and they get so bent out of shape that that their value is primarily associated to their looks and their beauty. Oh, why can't I like, why is my value just attached to that? Like, why can't you appreciate me for my degrees or my accomplishments in my career and all those things? And I tell them the same thing. There's no guy that's ever looked at your degree and been like, oh yeah, look at the degree on that girl, right? That's not what we're looking at. So to that point, women are beauty objects and they know this. They inherently know this. And anytime they tell themselves it's not true or I should be admired for more than my beauty, why do they spend all this time and money on Botox and lifters and injections and boob jobs and Spanx and push-up bras and high heels and all of these things to make themselves and dyeing their hair and the eyelash extensions and like you can go on and on and on. Women spend a vast fortune on trying to preserve, maintain, and delay the onset of gravity and time with their beauty. So I think it's an unfortunate thing because there's some genuinely attractive women that can age into their 30s, 40s, and 50s, for example, and still look very attractive without doing all that nonsense. I think some basic fundamental care, like eye cream, maybe if you get older and you want to tighten the skin back, and it doesn't look weird. Um, but like when they get to like the lip fillers where they can't laugh and they're, they look like a fish or their eyebrows can't move, because their forehead's frozen from all the Botox. It's not a good look, and somebody needs to tell these women the truth. You look like trash. Like it doesn't look good. Maybe there's some guys that like that. I just don't happen to be one of them.
Yeah. Richard, this is something I spend a lot of time on because, my world is kind of engulfed in the pornography addiction space. And when you talk about supernormal stimulus, there's a great study that was done in Stanford with the butterfly ecosystem where they injected these fake butterflies that had bigger wings, brighter color, eyes and whatnot. And the male butterflies stopped going to the female butterflies to mate. They started going to the artificial ones. I see what's happening in society. Maybe this is my skewed perception because I've spent so much time talking with men that are wrapped up in pornography, that what women are doing is a byproduct of men being overly not sexualized, but overly stimulated through just an endless stream of women after women after women. I mean, like I've heard Jordan Peterson talk about this, that a 12-year-old boy today in a span of 5 or 10 minutes can look at, consume, and watch more naked women than a king would have done, 100 years ago. So I think that what women are doing, because women follow men, right? Like men are becoming more attracted to these fake things. You have cartoon porn, you have all that's kind of, the BBW and all these other things. I see this is what's happening because men are weak and we're getting caught up in that. But that's just my perception around these things. But it's not attractive to me at all. And it's once you see it, it's like you can't unsee it. And like I said, I've seen so many women that they'll start with the nose, but then it's the cheeks, and then it's the jaw, and then it's the lips, and then it's the eyes. And it's like, because every time they change something, they're not liking the person that they're seeing back. So it becomes this endless, almost facial body dysmorphia type of life.
Yeah, there's a book by Maxwell Maltz called Psycho-Cybernetics, and he was into rhinoplasty. This book's old; it's decades old, and he's talking about in the book how he noticed that even after doing like facial reconstructive surgery for guys that were in like burn victims or anything like this, no matter how good the results, how perfect they looked after the fact, their mind's eye, like the vision they held of themselves, was still the deformed look that they always had, right? So I think that's just one of the flaws, with human thinking. I honestly like I get why women do it, and I see the industry exists, and there's a lot of push to encourage and endorse that. And I mean, some self care is good. Like I want a woman to look fit and feminine, and I get, look, hey, maybe time and gravity haven't been good, and you want to get a breast augmentation. Fine. I mean, but when it gets to the point where it's like, she walks in the room and her tits enter the room like 3 seconds before the rest of her because they're so big, then it kind of gets exaggerated, right? Like, like take care of yourself, but don't go so far that it looks obnoxious. And I don't know, maybe some women, the way that guys to some degree get addicted to porn and like going down the rabbit hole or whatever that looks like, women might get, addicted to the notion of like facial, surgeries and lifts and Botoxes and injectors and all these sorts of things. And, fine. It's just, I want you to eat. You're just not going to eat at my table.
Yeah, all for the self-care, man. Healthy nutrition, hydration, water intake, get regular facials for women, right? Strength train, build muscle, like,
Take a
muscle is,
collagen
the
supplement
longevity
too if
organ.
you get
Yeah, take
older
a
as a
collagen
woman,
supplement.
because yeah.
Exactly. There's a lot of things that you can naturally do to keep yourself looking young and beautiful.
I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.